without further ado, we welcome a guest that has been on. I think this is third time, I believe.
Third time,
with,
yes,
with
third
this
time.
Gentleman. He is one of my good friends. He is Alex Zappa, Bally Sports North reporter. Welcome to the show, baby. Let's go.
Wow. I thought after last time you guys would never have me back. So, I mean, this is just a welcome surprise. And, I'm just happy to be here. Thank you. I thought that was fun. I thought that was pretty good.
I liked it. Yeah. Zaps. I mean, again, we got a lot to talk about. Obviously, zoners know who you are now. They know that you're working for Bally. You're doing fantastic things at Bally. But Zaps, we got to talk about those Wolves, man. Those Wolves have been on fire, dude. I mean, the last time we had you on, and we talked about this just before the show, I mean, what have they done this year as opposed to last? I mean, who is this team? That's my question. What do you think, Zaps?
I think that's a great place to start, the differences between last year and this year, because I remember being on this show and being like, don't be surprised if this is the number one team in the West, because when you look at this roster and the roster construction, the talent just was there and it existed. And it was a perfect formulation of a go-to scorer, a great Robin to a Batman, and then a couple guys who are really great defensively who don't need the rock too much. And last year, I think a Karl Anthony Towns still maybe felt propelled to be that dynasty kind of cornerstone person. I think Rudy Gobert came in and wasn't healthy, which has been reported on a lot this year about his lack of health last year. And you also had no Mike Conley to start the season as well. The trade happened, and so Rudy getting healthy, a full offseason with the same group, Jaydendaniels getting a little bit stronger. It might not look like it, but he did. And then Anthony Edwards just taking the next step. I think the Team USA this summer really taught him a lot, not only about how great he is, but how individuals don't win games, teams do. And that has been the biggest leap I've seen this year, is everyone locking into their roles, understanding what their purpose is on this team, and sticking by it. And when they don't, it's when we lose. But guess what? We haven't lost that many games this year, and it's because the talent has finally merged with the humility amongst this team as far as what are you supposed to do on this team, and these guys being experts at facilitating that on the court.
Yeah, and you see kind of you mentioned Gobert. In my opinion, Zaps, I feel like Rudy Gobert has shown why he can be a force down low. I was watching the game on Monday night, I believe, and the defensive prowess of Rudy Gobert this year has been fantastic. He's probably in line to win the Defensive Player of the Year again. What do you think Gobert has done this past offseason to get to that form that we thought we would see in year one? What do you think?
It's so obvious in one sense. It's an obvious word to say. It's much harder to apply, is confidence. I think when he got here, he was struggling to catch lob passes, and there just was not a good aura. There was not a good vibe around Rudy Gobert, and he has proven himself this year that give me the ball, I'm going to score. And then on the defensive end, just that 10% more healthy when you're in a league full of A-plus athletes, world-renowned athletes, makes a humongous difference. So his ability to leap and get those blocks and his confidence to also be more aggressive, and then the communication as well. A lot of times you saw last year a lot of pick-and-roll coverage, and Rudy was dropping. And the wing defender wasn't doing their job, wasn't staying on the screen. So then he was all of a sudden in no man's land. And so it's a combination of chemistry, camaraderie, and then his ability to, I think, take on this alpha nature that got away from him last year because of his inability to do kind of the simple things. And he's one of the least, there are kids in high school who just quite frankly can dribble a basketball better than Rudy Gobert. There are kids in 8th grade traveling ball who can shoot better than Rudy Gobert.
Sure.
But for this team and this coaching staff to understand that he is exceptionally great at a couple things, and for him to finitely focus on those has made a humongous difference. And so it's really transformed this team as far as letting Karl-Anthony Towns be away from the basket a little bit more and letting Rudy Gobert really man that paint, and then let the other defensive players shine too. I think Jaydendaniels and Anthony Edwards specifically taking their leaps on the defensive end have made Rudy look as good, if not better, too.
I think another thing too, I know you probably mentioned this too, Mike Conley. Him and Mike Conley have worked together before, and I feel like with Mike Conley being there, he's able to know how to work with Gobert, and I think that's been a plus too for Gobert. Besides Rudy Gobert, what other Wolves player would you say, Zappa, has impressed you the most?
I love Nickeil-Alexander-Walker as a guy
Yeah.
who just comes off the bench and is a dog on defense. Just hounds other people. And his catch and shoot threes have been amazing. Again, when you're sharing a court with Anthony Edwards, Karl-Anthony Towns, Jaydendaniels, who are able to spread the floor, you forget about a guy like Nickeil-Alexander-Walker. And he's a former lottery pick. Okay, this is a very talented basketball player that on a Washington Wizards team could be their third leading scorer. Well, guess what? On a number one seed in the West, you're going to be 7th or 8th. But his ability to, again, put his ego to the side and say, listen, I'm focused on defense and making open three-point shots, and I'm not going to be isoing off the corner. I'm not going to be driving and doing contested layups. He only takes layups and catch and shoot threes. That's only and playing incredible defense. And so I would say, and then you cannot look past the consistency of offense that Naz Reid has provided. His three-point efficiency has been incredible. His finishing ability is actually a little bit down this year, but to have a center be able to come in and dribble, drive, and just say, hey, Naz Reid, here's the ball, go score 2 points, and he does it 50% of the time is such a valuable weapon. And someone who also defensively has held his own this year, which is something that early in his career he really had problems with.
Yeah. And, you know, I think, not obviously, Naz Reid, fan favorite. No fans or buts about it. Every time he's in the game, I feel like they get a lot more energy. They feed off him, and you know, a lot of people said, "Well, you can't have that many big centers back to you with Cat, with Gobert, with Naz Reid." Well, they're the number one seed in the West right now. I think it's working okay, and I think that's a credit to Coach Finch. And I think Finchy, has been fantastic. Go ahead.
No, it's a great point because you talk about the Rudy Gobert defense, and I think that big difference has been when you have a Karl-Anthony Towns and Naz Reid guarding on the perimeter, and they're playing close defense. Like, they're not saddled back. They're not giving up the open three. So guess what? I can contest your three-point shot, and then if you drive, I can stay with you until you get to the rack. And then that's when you're open. But guess who we have there is Rudy Gobert. So, again, Chris Finch has found a system to make this work. And Karl-Anthony Towns and Naz Reid, they have the ability to close out at the three-point line. They have the ability to at least get there. And so if you can just show, and then you can say, all right, you can blow by me. Okay, you're a 6'2" point guard. You're a 6'7" wing. You're going to be able to beat me off the dribble to the basket. But guess what? I have a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year there waiting for you. That's been a humongous difference as far as getting the other team to play into your strength. That has been Chris Finch to a T. It's why they hired him mid-season, and it's why, you know, he's coaching the All-Star game this year, because he has a way of understanding his roster and putting his players in a position where they have to be successful. They are just going to be.
Yeah, and we are keeping our fingers crossed that it keeps that way, because it's a pretty close race, obviously, that we talk with the Thunder, with the Nuggets and everything like that. But before we get to that, let's talk about Ant, our guy, Ant.
Our guy.
And Voldy, I'll be asking you too. But and then also the zoners. If you have any questions for Alex, throw it in the chats. We'd love to hear from you as well. So obviously Ant's reached, I feel like every year he's reached new heights. And of course he's exceeded even more expectations this year. Zaps, what has he done this season that, you know, has impressed you the most? Or what is he like? What do you think he's improved upon, or what has impressed you? What do you got?
The first thing is the defense. I mean, just I would think of the Celtics game when it was Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum against Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels, and we won. And we very deliberately won that game in the final 5 minutes. And of late, closing's been a little bit tougher. They'll figure it out. But his relentlessness and his free throws. I mean, he's finally getting some respect. He still asks for a little bit too many fouls, but everyone does.
True.
But I think leading on both sides of the floor has been a humongous change. And I think, again, going back to Team USA, I think he very much saw that I have to be a complete player. And if I want to be a Michael Jordan, if I want to be a Kobe Bryant, if I want to be a LeBron James, I need to go after chase down blocks. And you're seeing that when he makes mistakes and when he's not having good offense, a lot of times he turns up his defense to get back to his offense. So I think, number one, he's always been competitive. I think finally he's at a point with his body and his stamina where that competitiveness is showing all 36, 38 minutes he's playing in a game. It's not just when he's scoring. It's not just on nights when he wants to. His consistency of effort and tenacity, trying to dominate whoever's across from him, offensively or defensively, is what the greats have done. And I think he studied those greats. I think he wants to be great and understands that on this team, for them to be great, he needs to be the best player on the court, regardless of team, every single night. And the reason we've won over 40 games and we still have about 25 to go is because he's writing that check, and guess what? He's cashing it. He's actually showing us, and that is really, really cool to see. It's very reminiscent, quite frankly, of Kevin Garnett, who whoever was across from him was like, F you, I'm going to beat you every single inch of this court. And Anthony Edwards has very much taken on that perspective. I'm going to dominate you every second of this game.
You know, and KG's been given a lot of praise to Edwards and stuff like that. Shoot, even Stephen A. Smith is saying Vince Carter, reminiscent of Vince Carter, Kobe Bryant, and then whoever Michael Jordan was the third one too. So that's just insane to think about. But Voldy, question to you. I mean, what has impressed you the most with Ant this season?
Well, obviously, it comes to another year of seasoning for him at the NBA level, too. And obviously, not having to be, take everything upon his shoulders. That's kind of another thing that it's really not so much just him alone that's really impressed me throughout the whole season. It's all the complementary pieces around him, too.
Yeah.
Sure, he can go out and get out 35 points a night as well. And also, like Apps was talking about too, the production on the defense as well, that he can, if he's having a bad shooting night or just, calls not going his way, he can be that complementary piece on the defensive side. Whereas guys, other guys that may not be having a good shooting night, I'm just going to, backpedal on defense and, be a traffic cone out there as opposed to an actual defender too. But having all those other pieces come into play with obviously, McDaniels, and then you throw in obviously Cat, Gobert, Naz Reid as well. All those other guys on the floor can be that outlet on the defensive side, with obviously still having him the ability to go out and get points too with Anthony Edwards. Just getting another year under his belt and just, more reps at that level, playing for Team USA, getting that international experience, of course, playing against the best of the best, trying to ramp that up a little bit more to keep that out throughout the whole year and just building more of that longevity that can be throughout a whole year, as opposed from start of the season to end of the season, whatever happens in between happens, and then just continuing to build off of that each year.
I love it. Zaps, we have a question from Zona.
Okay.
Ask Alex which teams in the West the Wolves should, fear the most. What teams would you say not a great matchup for the Wolves? They might struggle against this team, but which team do you think could make trouble for the Wolves here, Zaps, coming up?
I have always been terrified of the Pelicans, and it's a weird pick, but the Zion, Valanciunas, B.I., they have so much scoring. They have so many just bucket getters that they can match baskets with a lot of players, and they have the physicality to match us on the rebounding side of things, which is where we usually dominate. Denver's the easy answer because when Jokic wants to be, he's maybe the best player of all time. And then you have Michael Porter Jr., who's 6'10" and makes about 40% of his threes. Jamal Murray, who just becomes like an otherworldly player once the playoffs start. Like he's kind of like playoff, like how playoff Rondo is a thing. It's almost like playoff Murray at this point.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then I don't think you can sleep on the Oklahoma City Thunder because they're just an incredible math team. I mean, they have 3 guys averaging over 16 points a game, and all of them shoot above 50% from the floor. Like, it's absolutely absurd what they're able to do. Now, we played them in the play-in last year, and we beat them. And a lot of that was because of Nickeil whose cousins with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So we have guys who can kind of defend Shai, but the Thunder we've played really close this year. We've played the Pelicans terribly this year. Denver, again, we took them to 5 games last year without Naz Reid and Jaydendaniels. That was a very big deal. And so and I'll tell you what, if we even get the 1 or the 2 seed, you're playing a Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Dallas team. You might be playing a LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Lakers team. Like this West, thank goodness Ja Morant got hurt because the Memphis Grizzlies were the team I was maybe the most scared of once they actually got healthy. So this West is absolutely brutal, but we've held our own and we've played really good. We've dominated bad teams this year, and we've been able to split for the most part against the elite teams. And so it's going to come down to composure at the end of these games. And we have a 23, 24-year-old that we're going to put it in the hands of, and that's pretty scary. And on nights it works, it looks great. And on nights it doesn't, it's brutal. And quite frankly, last year were a lot of those games where it kind of looked brutal. And this year it's been one of those years where it's looked really great. And it's cliche to say, it's true. It's a make or miss league. And that's the blessing, the curse of a Anthony Edwards, of a Kobe Bryant, of a Michael Jordan, is every shot they take in one sense is a good one because they can make every single shot possible. But it's also a curse because then you start taking all these shots. And so we have to put it in Anthony Edwards' hands. And at this point this season, that's been a really great decision. When it gets to playoff times, more scouting reports, and more time spent against other teams, I'll be curious to see how we fare because it's a brutal conference, as you mentioned.
So, you mentioned, I was going to say the Pelicans too. So I'm glad we're on the same page. I don't know what it is, but I feel like whenever they play, they have a trouble guarding Zion. Like, I don't know why it is. I mean, well, granted, for anyone, he's a big dude, Like, he gets through there, man.
He's a generational player. He's pretty good.
Yeah, he's pretty good. Yeah. He ain't bad. And obviously there's some, controversies that are happening with him, but he's still damn good. I mean, it's that simple. It's, man, I hope they don't get matched up with the Pelicans because that could be a situation where, I feel like it'll probably go, I mean, it'd be great if the Wolves swept them, but, there's a lot of season left to go. So hopefully, the Wolves will have an answer by then. But, Finchy has been a great coach so far, and, I think he'll be have him ready to roll. So the last thing I got for you, and then you're doing rapid fire again with Shield. So recent news, Zaps. What's your take on Ant missing the tip-off last Monday night? Apparently Ant says that he lost track of time. Do we believe that, or was there something going on? Like, I mean, can you give us any insight? What do you have?
So that's what's brutal. As I was not working this game, I wasn't there. I've heard about this, and I've never heard of this though. Like, I heard that this happened. I've never heard of this situation literally happening. Well, then he had a terrible game. Like, I think he only had like 12 or 13 points in Finch top. Yep. But how about this? We still won. And
True.
In the fourth quarter, with only 11 points, he's playing like squat down on the floor, like all hands on deck defense, which is what I love. And again, so an example of we're winning games when our best player, who's averaging 26 and a half a game, scores 13. Because guess what? That's when Rudy Gobert puts up a 20-20 game. That's when Cat kind of takes his spot. And so, I don't know what happened. I mean, he's Anthony Edwards, man. I mean, he's a superstar. Stuff happens. And maybe he's just like, you know what? I don't want to start every game this year, humbly. I want to, I need some – he needed to be humbled maybe a little bit. He wanted to humble himself. We'll say that.
He pulled a semi-pro is what he did. Just shows up, mid-game, throws himself right in, just start getting buckets. Pull the coffee
Shout
black.
out to
buckets, man. But I think I don't know, and this is what people have been saying. I mean, he was just became a dad recently too. So
Yes.
I don't know if there was something going on with that and whatnot. But again, the thing is obviously I don't think it's going to happen again. And Finchy obviously, in the press conference was like, well, you have to ask him, and whatnot. So
Yeah.
But we love Ant here, and obviously we want to see, because a lot of people are talking. They're like, oh, why is he doing things like that? It's like, well, let's just he learned his lesson. It's okay. People make mistakes. It's all good. So,
Yeah.
With that being said, Shield, hit him with some rapid fire.
All right, we're going to get right to it as well. Of course, we see over your shoulder, Zaps, of course, that collection of awards that with Valley Sports North and everything. So, with your time at Valley Sports North, who is your favorite personality that you've had to work with Valley Sports?
Like Valley Sports North talent, you're saying?
Yes, of the talent there. Who's your favorite?
I mean, that's like picking your favorite kid to his. Well, I just don't want to make anyone
Everybody's
mad.
got a favorite kid.
Marney, right?
You love them all the same. You can like one the most. That's what I've always. That's a great one. Okay, I love that. I've worked the closest with Marnie. I produced the show she works on. We've been doing it for 4 years now, and she's got to interview like A-Rod, Lori, Craig Kilborn, like Ant, Cat. Like, it's ridiculous the people that she's interviewed on this show, and she's really been a mentor. I mean, there are days where she'll do K-Fan in the morning for an hour, whatever, however long it is, and then she'll show up to Mayo Clinic where we have the studio for Wolves Plus, and she'll do 2 interviews. And then she'll go into the media room and work on the game, and then she's working a 7 o'clock game that night till like 11. And so you look at someone like her, and it's just the work ethic, it's the discipline, but also the, it's just what she does. It's just a job. It's who she is. And so it sometimes doesn't have to be super complicated. It can just be very simple. So no, I would say, Marnie's pretty dope. She's a cool lady.
Give me your Mount Rushmore of interviewees that you have done. So that's four interviews. Who's on your Mount Rushmore that you've done?
I would say Ant is probably the first on that list. I love Ant.
There's one.
I'll tell you what, I interviewed him last week for this elementary school thing. Towns is actually like really down to earth and like chill. Like, we were talking about the Scholastic Book Fair like before like I interviewed him, which is just like awesome. Yeah, it was an event where the Wolves donated books, and he was like, well, I remember the Scholastic Book Fair, and I was like, dude, that was the best. Like, I loved the Scholastic Book Fair.
At St. Joe's.
So he was dope. I got the first interview I ever did for Bally. I interviewed Lynx players, and so I'm going to fill it out with Maya Moore and Sylvia Fowles. I would say I got Maya once, and she was just super cool, and I really couldn't believe it. And then still, I do some sideline reporting for the Lynx, and so I actually got to know her. I interviewed her at a couple events like outside of Lynx, just like kind of her volunteer stuff during her last season, and just one of the most gracious, down to earth. Also just like a freak of nature. Like, you see her and you're like, yep, you probably are the best center in WNBA history. Like, that makes sense. So, I'm going with 2 Wolves and 2 Lynx because I like a lot of my work comes with basketball. I love, the thing I just want to make is they're so like normal, and they're so like, guess what? They go to the bathroom, they get hungry, they get annoyed, they get happy, and it's really amazing to get exposed to them, and then just see how people talk about these pro athletes sometimes is like ridiculous because they're just people trying to make money for their families and stuff. So it's tough. Yeah.
Right. That's a good point. All right. Another one here for you. I don't know if you've had the chance yet or not to talk with Alexrodriguez, A-Rod. Have you had that chance yet?
I do. Yeah. He knew my name for like 3 days, which I'm really proud of. I did.
Kind of easy to remember.
Yeah, well, we have the same name.
Exactly.
I interviewed him at this Second Harvest event that the Timberwolves were at, and I interviewed one of his daughters, and then she was an actor, so we talked about acting, and then they're like, oh, it's Alex, and then the next day there was a game, and he passed by me, and he kind of double-taked me, and he was like, good to see you, Alex. And I was like, okay, I'm set for like a month. Like, I'm pretty good. That's decent.
Yeah. That's pretty awesome. Speaking of the Lynx we talked about earlier there just a moment ago, what are 3 things that the Lynx need to do to get back into the title picture for the WNBA?
Trade for Caitlin Clark somehow. That would be a great start. I think that would be amazing. Don't know if that's gonna work. I don't think the Fever are gonna give. I mean, the Fever are gonna be really good. That's with Leah Boston and her, like, holy cow.
Oh boy.
They've done a little bit of it. They needed a center presence, and they signed Alana Smith, who's a really good player. They got Courtney Williams, who's a point guard who has really good stats and has been around the league and does a lot of things. I mean, the WNBA is really competitive, and they have all these super teams, and we don't quite have that super team persona yet. So we have Fee. Kayla McBride's a great player. I think she's more a side piece than a cornerstone. And so we need to get lucky, and we need Diamond Miller to kind of become something, whether she can be that. I think Diamond Miller's a little bit more Jaydendaniels than she'll be Anthony Edwards as far as just her role on a team. I think she's more a 3 or a 4 than a 1 or a 2. But we need a big-time free agent to come here. I mean, just plain and simple. It's a smaller league, so the best players, it's much more important where they are and who they are. And so we needed to get a little bit lucky. I was hoping Nafisa Collier would get Brianna Stewart over here, who is a free agent. They have the UConn connection. Yeah. We had the money. It was possible. It didn't happen. So we need a big-time player. We're one player away, honestly.
Always one player. Controversial final question here, and it's something that we've talked about on the show here.
Yes.
Does Draymond Green deserve a ring for jump-starting the Wolves to the top of the Western Conference when the Timberwolves win the NBA championship?
Absolutely not. I will take that ring instead of Draymond Green. No. But I think there's something to that. And I think that's actually a really interesting point to bring up, because the tenacity and the alpha nature of this team showing up and saying, hey, we're one of the best teams in this league, we're going to dominate you. And then Draymond Green being like the embodiment of that mentality, and then us alphing Draymond Green to a certain extent is a very big deal. So I hope we beat the Warriors on our way to a championship, and then that can be kind of our saving grace to Draymond Green. That can be our, hey, you were a part of this too. We beat you to get to where we are.
I love it. That's all I got for rapid fire.
Oh, man. And, just so you know, Zaps, to add on to that, Draymond Green was voted 2023 Clown of the Year on this show. So, choking guys.
What is he doing?
Right.
The highlight reel of just nut picks that he has is incomprehensible. I just don't quite get it. Very bizarre.
He punched his own teammate in the face. Like, it's insane to me. Like, oh my gosh.
Right.
So, but anyway, wanted to throw that out there to you. Okay, one last thing, because we talked about this right before the show, and you have an opinion on this because you covered a lot of sports. Kirkochainz. Is he coming back to Minnesota? Obviously, the recent news right now is all signs are pointing to Atlanta. What are your thoughts on this whole Kirko conundrum?
I mean, here's the deal, boys, and I mean this in a very real way. We got to turn over this team. Like, we haven't done it with Kirk. Like, we haven't. And this team is not the team that we had 3 years ago. It's not the team we had 2 years ago. And I think if you look at this team objectively, we have a very good offensive line. We have a great wide receiver group.
Yeah.
And I would argue nothing else. Like, quite literally. Like, our defensive backs are not great. Our safeties are fine. Our defensive line is missing a lot of pieces. Our edge rushers are missing a lot of pieces. Our linebackers are incredibly average. And so let's draft a quarterback. Like, we don't have a running back. We just released Madison. And running back isn't that important, but you'd like to have one, hypothetically. And so I love Penix from Washington. All he's done is win. I love that his knees are banged up because he can drop to us. I think we could even maybe get him at the end of the first, trade him back in, do a little like Lamar Jackson thing, like get to pick number 32. Shield doesn't love it. And I also think McCarthy on Michigan's grown on me a little bit. That feels a little bit busty to me. But guess who also was a Michigan Wolverine? A guy named Tom Brady. Okay, so listen, what are we doing? I love Jaydendaniels would be my like godsend pick. I think there's no chance he gets to us at 11, but God, is that guy going to be fun to watch? But I like Penix. I think all he's done is win. He's arguably the most accurate passer in this draft. And last time I checked, like, quarterbacks ought to be accurate. So I like him. What do you guys think? I don't want Kirk back, though. I really don't. I don't think he's worth the money. And I think we've seen what we're capable of with him. And in a very human way, this will be the worst year he probably will have had in the last few because he literally tore his Achilles last year. And I don't think that's ridiculous to say.
Shield, go ahead.
Well, on the Michael Penix route, we'll start with that first off. Yes, all he done is win, and all he's done is get hurt in the process too, coming off 9 years in the college game as well. I could see that. I do agree. JJMcCarthy is someone that's kind of grown on me in recent weeks and in recent months. Take the whole national championship Michigan thing out of it as well. I kind of like that kind of being a sleeper quarterback too. But yeah, Jaydendaniels would be a godsend as well. See what New England wants to come up with at that 3 spot there. They've had some talks with Jayden. I've heard too recently, me being a closeted New England fan as well, literally as I'm talking here in my closet right now. But see, the more we talk about Kirk and the likelihood and the possibility of him leaving, the more I come to realize that you may have to, he may have to do the old dumpster fire and just sell off the team, sell it off for spare parts. And hopefully that will lead the way, obviously, with the open cap space that the Vikings could use to, obviously sign JJ. But more and more reports coming out does not look good for Kirk to come back. I certainly would like him to come back, at least for one more. But coming off the Achilles, him being at advanced quarterback age at 107 in quarterback years is not good, but I don't know, honestly. Could be very well surprised. They could go out and do something completely ridiculous and just sell off the whole team. But me personally, I want Kirk back, but that's just me. So
well, my thoughts on that, and Zaps, as you know the show. Obviously, I met Kirkochainz. Me and Kirko text and talk more than people know.
I've heard that. Yeah,
you've heard, yeah.
A little too much.
A little too much.
Yeah.
But my opinion on it, and we'll talk about this more in hot take. But I'm starting to warm up to McCarthy a little bit because at first I'm like, hell no, stay away. We're not doing that thing. But I want them to get, if they're saying, okay, Kirk's gone, find that quarterback, the bridge quarterback that everyone keeps talking about. Oh, go for Baker, go for Darnold, go for, a guy that's going to, hold it until the rookie's ready to go. Because I feel like if we're going to throw somebody into the fire like that, like a J.J. McCarthy right away, could ruin him. That's. But KOC is a fantastic play caller. He's a fantastic head coach so far. I think he might be able to get them to that point of him being ready, week 1. But I don't know. That's a lot to ask. I feel like if that's McCarthy. Penix, I'm warming up to a little bit. His combine was very good.
Good.
He was accurate. He was he showed he can fit it in there and whatnot. He's mobile. Something that the Vikings quarterbacks have never had is a mobile QB. That's what they need, man. And McCarthy.
Hey, don't forget about Tavares T-Jack, Matt. What about T-Jack?
T-Jack. That's true. That's
R.I.P.
true. R.I.P.
R.I.P.
Sorry.
Yeah. But
hey, we had Joe Webb, okay? We had Joe Webb. I had to remind people, we had Joe Webb.
We had
the morning of when Ponder was supposed to start that playoff game, and then you got through the news line that I was jacked. And then you saw the game, and you're like,
yeah, no,
not
jacked
anymore. This is not great.
Yeah, no, not good at all. So, but I don't know. I just feel like something that, I know you mentioned T-Jack and whatnot, but Kirk obviously is more pocket passer, right? And now you can add, some guys that can actually move around, even though Penix obviously has the injuries that he's had these past, in his injury history. So I don't know. That's just kind of my thoughts on it, but we'll see how it goes. Next week's going to tell us everything we need to know, or even
again, Detroit's going to be great. I think Chicago is in a position to really turn over their team if they can lock in this draft. And the Packers are really scary with Jordan Love. Like, we might just need to kind of
Sadly.
suck for a while and reset the deck. That's
Okay.
what is like.
Yeah.
We're in a really tough division all of a sudden, and while I don't want us to be bad, it might be the time for us to kind of, take a pill of we stink and look towards the future instead of trying to maintain this averageness that we've been for a while. It just doesn't work.
I understand. I totally understand. So we'll see how it plays out. We'll be talking, and obviously, there's a lot of questions that will be answered very, very soon. So,
Yeah.
Zaps,
Yes.
another great time as always having you on. We love talking about the Wolves, obviously with this Kirko drama. I wish we had more time. My friend. But we'll find another time to do that. But we got to get you some Zona merch, my friend. We gotta get you rolling on that. We got new stuff. Got quarter zips.
Ooh.
We got sweatpants. There's a whole slew of stuff. So if we'll talk. I will message you if you want some. Cool
Okay.
stuff coming your way.
I'm gonna keep your word on that. I wear my Zone shirt at the gym all the time.
Let's go.
Nice.
Yeah. It's 5 out of, 5 out of 5 stars. I haven't heard a bad thing about the Zona shirt, so that's all we care about. Zaps, thank you for your time. We will talk to you soon. Go Wolves, go Lynx, Skull Vikes, the whole deal. We'll talk to you later.
Pleasure, boys. Appreciate it.